If you've ever wanted to solo travel but need some tips or advice or just hesitant about doing it, then keep watching because this video is for you. My name is Alicia or Electric Ollie, and I've traveled solo to different states, to music festivals, to different countries, other continents, and most recently to Medellin, Colombia. So I'm going to be covering tips that I generally follow, whether it's to a music festival here in the States or from going to another country or continent. And then some of these tips will be specifically for Medellin, Colombia, or I guess just Colombia. Okay, so just a little background on some of the places that I've been solo. The biggest cities that I've been to in the United States alone were New York City, Los Angeles, Vegas. I live in Miami now, but I've been to Miami here alone. So these are some pretty big cities that I have managed to go alone. And then country-wise, I've been to Australia, Japan, and now Colombia. And then the music festivals I've done alone are Ultra Music Festival, Shaky Beats in Atlanta, and like two of them in Texas. So I kind of have a pretty good experience of traveling alone. Okay, so tip number one is that no matter where I'm going, so this is just a general tip for everything that you do solo, I always share my location with somebody. So that would be my mom. Like, she has my location, even me just living in Miami. Like, my mom just always has my location on. And then I have a few friends that also have it as well. So just in general, share your location with somebody, whether it's your parents, your best friend, somebody in the family, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Just make sure somebody has your location on at all times. So if anything were to ever come up, then they're able to trace you, hopefully through the phone. My second tip is that I always share my accommodation information, my travel information, all of that with somebody. So in this case, my mom as well, since she's the one that I share my location with. So I send her the email or like a screenshot of the hotel I'm going to be at, my reservation number, the dates I'm checking in, the dates I'm checking out. I also let her know of my flight details, like what airline I'm going to be on, when I'm taking off, when I've landed, when I've, departing, all of that. And depending on the other transportation, I will also let her know. So in this last case, when I was in Colombia, I needed to book a transportation to and from Ultra Music Festival. So for that, I sent her the travel website, their Instagram, the person's Instagram that runs this travel website. So she had like a name and a face and all of their contact information, just in case anything came up. My third tip is to just frequently check in with somebody or just post regularly on social media. So I do both of these things. When I travel alone, I always keep my data on. And because like in the past, I would have turned it off just to save money and not spend it. But when I'm with other people, but when I'm alone, I keep my data on so I can have access to text or call somebody at any point in time. And then the same thing, if somebody needed to contact me, that is available. So as far as like checking in frequently, like I kind of mentioned in my last tip, that when I land in the city, I let my mom know. Or, when I made it to the hotel, I'm let her know. Like at the end of the night, for sure, I always let her know, like, hey, I'm in for the night, I'm safe. When I'm leaving for the day, like, okay, I'm leaving the hotel now, I'm gonna go check out a few spots. I don't check in with her every time I'm leaving from a spot. And so that's kind of where like social media comes in. So if you're not a social media user, then this tip, I guess, isn't for you. But for the people that like to post on Instagram, like their stories and stuff, this comes in handy. I post a lot on Instagram, and fun fact, my mom has an Instagram because in 2018, when I was traveling for 3 months, I was like, I might not call every day because I was with a lot of people in and out of that time too. So I was like, get an Instagram and you'll be able to see what I'm doing all the time. So my mom has an Instagram just to kind of keep up with me, and she gets to see everything too. So I want her to see. So I tell my friends that too, that like if I stop posting consistently on Instagram, then something's up, because I want to be able to share my experience, and it's just like that little taste of what I'm doing until the YouTube video comes out. My fourth tip would be transportation related. If you are using Ubers, ride shares a lot, it's easy to share your driver information and have somebody able to track the ride. So I don't always do this. If it's a long ride, I will. So like right when I got into Medellin and I had to book the Uber from the hotel to from the airport to the hotel, it was going to be like 30-40 minute ride. That's a long ride. So I wanted my mom to know. And so in this case, I sent her a picture of the driver, like once I got in the car, so it has his name and all of that. And then Uber, I don't know if Lyft does it too, maybe they both do, where it has the option to send your ride details to somebody so they can track your ride as well. Okay, when it comes to having money in a different country, a lot of them, I've been able to use like my international credit card, which doesn't have any fees. So I use my credit card if I can, but sometimes countries are just big on cash. So my fifth point is cash related. Going into Colombia, just based on the research I did, a lot of people said that it's just like a cash dominant society, so it's best just to have cash. So what I did was, because I knew I was going to be alone, I went ahead and exchanged my cash here in Miami, which is super convenient for me because I live in South Beach, so there's a cash exchange within 5 minutes of walking to me. So that may not be the most convenient for you to do if you're not near any cash exchange, but Miami is a very international city, so they're everywhere. So I went ahead and just went and exchanged my cash here and take it over there. People recommend don't exchange cash in the airport, even though that's probably like the safest place to do it, just because they have like a higher exchange rate, so you're not getting as much money as you would. But that is an option just for your safety. I've done that plenty of times. I don't care about losing money. But if you don't do it before you go, and if you don't do it in the airport, like if you're going to do it somewhere in the city, like make sure you do it during the day. And if you can't go inside to like a bank or an establishment for like extra security, like just make sure, like be aware of your surroundings, of potentially if anybody's watching you take cash out, just be aware. So one of the tips that I got from research is that from somebody that lives there or somebody that's visited there, so like go inside like a mall or whatever, you can go inside a mall and shop or do other things and pull cash out in there, so it's not that obvious that you're just like out on the street pulling out cash, and if somebody's potentially watching you, they know that you have cash on hand now. So just be careful with the cash situation. Also, something with the cash situation is that when I needed to pay with something with cash, I kind of split up my bills. Like when I would put them in my purse, I wouldn't, like if I had all my cash for the day, I wouldn't just keep it all in like one bundle. So every time I needed something, I wouldn't pull out this bundle. Like I would split it up and just take it a little at a time, or also just like in my purse be like digging through the cash so nobody really sees how much cash I really have on hand. Okay, my sixth tip is related to bags. So there are now like anti-theft bags, but if you don't have one of those or don't want to get one, because I don't have anti-theft bags or whatever, and I just follow these same practices everywhere I go. So when I travel, I usually just carry like a little crossbody bag. This is the exact one I use every freaking time. And so I always have this crossbody bag, and as there's a lot of outside zippers, so like I don't put anything of importance in the outside zippers. Everything's inside. And as I'm walking through the crowds, I make sure my bag is zipped. And so if I'm in a very, very crowded area, what I'm going to do is walk through the crowds and just keep my hands on my shit the whole time. So like there is no chance of somebody, if somebody were to try to get in there, like I would feel it, or like my hand is in the way. So this is just how I maneuver in a very crowded area. If it's not that crowded, if nobody's like standing near me, then, you know, I'm still aware of my bag and what's happening, but I'm not like holding on to it. But also too, I just constantly check periodically throughout the day as I'm out to make sure my ID's in there, my money, my phone, all of that. So I'm just always checking and just very aware of my purse. And I'm gonna talk about another alternative. Okay, another method for keeping your stuff safe is like if you have a backpack that you can't hold against your body and make sure nobody puts their sticky fingers in there, then you can get like a little mini lock. So I actually had this lock just from my tent at Tomorrowland. Like I've never done this before up until going to Colombia, because I was going to the festival alone, or, you know, meeting people that I'd never met before, and just safe, just in general, just wanted to be more safe and secure. I used this little lock. And so when it's locked, like this is as far as it opens. Like to get your hand in there, like you're gonna have to do a lot, and I would like notice that and feel that. So having a little like travel lock is also just another way to be safe and secure. Right. My 7th tip is to not carry all of your necessities and essentials on you, in your bag, in your wallet, in your pockets. So like don't take all of your cash with you, all of your credit cards with you. Don't. That's my cat's food timer, hang on. Okay, so don't carry all of your cash, all your credit cards, all of your forms of ID. Like just take what you need. So what I do is I leave my passport in the hotel, I leave one of my credit cards, and I leave the majority of my cash. So I'm only carrying my ID, a little bit of cash, and one credit card. I also take, so I just learned this from like the very first time I ever left the country, is that to have a photocopy of your ID and passport. So I carry that with me, and I just use the same paper every time I go. Thankfully, I've never lost any of those things, but I've been with friends that lost her ID in Miami, or this guy got his passport stolen in freaking Italy. So those things can obviously happen, and having like a copy of those things back at the hotel or just somewhere, other than like a picture on your phone, because your phone could easily get stolen too, it's just another way to protect yourself and be safe. So there should be like a safe in every hotel these days. And I don't know, recently I just saw somewhere like don't put your stuff in there either, like every hotel has access to break into it. But obviously if you put something in there and it goes missing, then you know somebody in the hotel took it. I'm still like weird about stuff, so I just try my best just to hide things throughout like my bags and all of that. But thankfully nothing of mine has ever been stolen while traveling, and I'm very thankful for that. My 8th tip is to be careful of all of your stuff. Your phone, if you are vlogging like with the camera, jewelry that you may wear. This is kind of more specifically towards Medellin, like with the phone thing, because in every freaking video I saw, everybody said like do not film like out in the streets with your phone. That like that's the one thing that Colombia, I don't know if it's specifically Medellin or Colombia in general, but like people are on the lookout for phones. So what I did was, I have an 11 Pro. Actually, I'm filming on my brand new iPhone 14 that I got today. But I wanted this phone, the one I'm filming on. I was like, I'm not gonna get it before I go to Colombia. Like, chill. I'll get it when I get back. So I had my 11 Pro, and then I have like an old 6S. So what I did is when I was out in the streets, I would film like on my 6S, which ended up being like really shitty quality. It was just bad. So you don't have to do all of this, because I get not everybody has a backup phone, and it ended up not working for me. But basically just be careful in general, whether you're in Colombia or not, like of your belongings. And you don't want to be, especially by yourself, like you don't want to be out there waving your expensive phone or your expensive camera or wearing all your best jewelry and just making yourself a target. So it's unfortunate, because like me with my YouTube channel, like I want to show everybody everything, you know, especially traveling, be in the streets and all of that. So just be careful, you know, and you'll know, I guess, when you're out, like if you feel okay filming or not. But even my friends that live there in Medellin, they're like, no, yeah, when you're by yourself, don't just have your phone out and filming. When you're with a group of friends, it's okay. You're less likely to get robbed. But ever since before I went and I YouTube just travel tips in Colombia or other people's experiences, like I've gotten so many videos of suggesting me of like, I was robbed in Colombia. I was robbed 3 days into Colombia. Like all these people getting robbed, like it could happen anywhere, but apparently it happens more often there. So moral of the story, just be careful with your things. My 9th tip, and probably a very obvious one, is just to always be aware of your surroundings. So don't go out and like, don't overdo it. Don't be like a nervous wreck, like afraid to step foot outside of the hotel and just be super anxious. Like don't do all that, but because you still want to have a good time, but like just be aware of your surroundings. So like with me, I enjoy and look forward and, you know, walk with my head up and just feel confident, like nobody's gonna fuck with me today. But also just aware, like make sure, check periodically that like nobody's following me, nobody's staring at me, you know, too long. And if something doesn't feel right, like listen to your gut. So there was only one time in Medellin that I was walking and I was like trying to go to this park. Like I was inside this building, I was like, oh, there's a park down there, I want to go. I started walking on this street that I thought would lead me to the park, and as soon as I started walking, this guy like on a little scooter drove by and was honking and calling things at me, and then he like pulled up in front of me to where like if I would have kept walking, I would have passed him. And he just parked his ass there and then just like cranked his neck, and it wouldn't take his eyes off me. So at that point I was like, I don't feel comfortable. For one, I don't even know if the street is gonna take me to the park, but two, like, it just didn't feel good to me. So I turned around and went back to like a crowded area, because one, if I would have kept on that way, like there wasn't a lot of people. It was more like traffic, like with vehicles, than there were people walking. So it just didn't sit right with me. I listened to my gut. I turned around and went back to where people were, and then I never saw them again. But because I did that, I didn't find out till later when I got in my ride to get out of that area that we ended up taking that road, and it led to nothing. It never took me to the park. I would have gotten on that walk. Like everything happens for a reason, right? Like I would have, if that man wasn't there, it made me feel uncomfortable. Like I would have taken that walk to freaking nowhere and ended up in an even more comfortable situation. Because as we were taking that road, I was like, I don't like this. I'm glad that I didn't make this walk. So if it doesn't feel right, listen to it, turn around, go back to a crowded area. And another thing with being aware of your surroundings, like don't have your head buried in your phone and just like constantly looking down. In general, in Medellin, I didn't have my phone out a lot because again, I was afraid of it being stolen. So that wasn't really an issue for me. But you know how we are, like we're walking and we're reading our text messages, checking our TikTok or Instagram, whatever. So don't make yourself a target by not paying attention to what's happening to you by being buried in your phone. You're also in a new country. You want to see what's out there anyway, so head up. Also, I don't engage with everybody that makes a comment to me in anywhere at any point in time in life. Like I could be walking to the beach here in Miami and somebody catcalls me or stops and asks me for money. I just keep fucking walking. So many times people feel obligated to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash, or no, I can't, I wish I could help you, but I can't. Or just like, if it's somebody or catcalling, like stand there and cuss them out. Like I don't talk to anybody. Like stop feeling the need to engage with people just because they speak to you. Like I just blow past everybody, don't say a fucking word. I'm not wasting my time. I'm not giving you any time. I don't know what else you could possibly say to me. I'm just gonna get out of there. So anytime somebody, like as soon as I got to the airport and I'm waiting for my Uber, all the cab drivers are walking up to you trying to get you to get their cab. Stop, acknowledge all of them and saying no thank you. Like just turn around, walk away. They leave you alone. Or in every time I got catcalled a lot over there, just keep walking. Like leave me alone. I'm not here to engage with anybody. Keep walking. eyes forward, show me mean business, don't act all scared or anything. Like, I'm not here to deal with that. I had so many people approach me for money. In one dinner that I was sitting at, and that the hour that I was there having dinner, like, it was like this little dim sum place, and it was facing out into a sidewalk, really busy area. I had 3 different people, men, mostly men. I saw a lot of the women asking for money too, but in this case it was all men. One of them had a kid that would just stop at your table and speak to you and ask you for food or money. You know what I do every time that they stopped? I would just like look up and notice that they were coming to me and just head back down, go back to eating. Or I was on my phone a lot when I was sitting down, so that's the times I felt most comfortable being on my phone. Like, go back to my phone. Like, I'm not here to talk to anybody. So don't ever feel obligated to engage in conversation with anybody at any point in time. Like, just don't do it. My 10th tip is specifically for Medellin. I'm sure this could be applied to a lot of places, but I don't know for sure. So it's about ride shares. So before I went, that was just my biggest concern. Like, are ride shares safe to use there? So I asked multiple people, and the person that I know that lives there, he told me, he's like, yes, ride share's okay. Just make sure that once you book the ride, that they're rated above 4 stars. If they're not at 4 or 5 stars, cancel the ride. And I guess that's just a general rule that you could apply to any city or country, is that you want to be with a good rated rider. Also, so this is very specific to Medellin. I got in the back seat right when I got from the airport to the hotel. The man didn't tell me anything, but the next ride that I took, I got in the back seat, and the man asked me, he's like, can you please get in front with me? And I'm already like, why? Like, in my mind, like, why? What are you in front with me? What are you trying to pull? And so he was like, well, because it's the taxis and the police don't like it here, so we could get in trouble for ride share. And I just said, okay. And as soon as I got out I went ahead and did it. Like, he seemed nice. It was daylight. It didn't freak me out. I just wanted to know why you were asking me to get up front. So when I finally got out, I messaged my friend right away that lives there. I was like, is this normal? He goes, yes, Alicia, don't worry about it at all. This is a very normal practice. That's the standard practice, because ride shares are illegal in these places. So yeah, like, they could get in trouble by the police, and then like the taxis don't like it either. And then again, like, my last day in Medellin, like, I was out with some friends and we shared Ubers. And so I asked again, they're like, yeah, like, that's normal. Like, even if you're always by yourself, always get in the front seat. And then even if you're with more than one person, like, somebody always has to be in the front seat. So I'm not sure what other countries that's normal in, like where else rideshare is illegal. So you have to do that, but for sure in Medellin. So if you go, like, that's one thing, like, I didn't see in any video. So now you know, if you take rideshares in Medellin, sit up front, it's okay. So I've gone through 10 different tips on how to stay safe solo traveling, and I'm going to give you a little bonus tip, number 11, and that is to have fun. Like, you want to go, so go. Like, all the places that I've ended up solo, it wasn't my first choice. Like, it's never my first choice to travel somewhere solo, but that's just the way that it goes sometimes. And I'm not going to miss out on anything because somebody can't come with me to go to a festival or out of the country or to stay in a country longer. So like, these were all the situations that I've ended up being in, is that like, just somebody couldn't join me, or nobody wanted to do it or didn't have the money. So I'm gonna do it because I want to go. I'm not gonna miss out on anything. It can be scary solo traveling, like even now, like that I've done it. It took me months to build up the courage to say like, okay, I'm gonna go to Colombia by myself. But once I like got over that fear and did a lot of research, I did. So I found out who has been there before. I got on TikTok and YouTube and looked up as many specifically like solo travel experiences in Colombia, but also people that just aren't from there, like at any nationality. Because my thing is like, I'm, you know, a girl from America, but I do have a Latin background, so I think I have a little bit of an advantage. Like, I kind of probably look like I passed from there, so maybe in general I'll just kind of like blend in and be okay. But it's just like, there's people from Asia going to Colombia. Like, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, they don't look like the locals, and they probably maybe don't speak Spanish, but again, if they can do it, I can do it. And that there were so many other solo female travelers that have gone before, so it's my turn now, you know? So just do your research of the place before you go on the internet. Talk to people if you can that have been there, and just prepare. Like, you know, use your gut instincts, you know, trust your best judgment, and just have fun. You know, you don't want to be in this, you know, new place and you're scared the whole time or worried to do something. Like, that defeats the whole purpose of going. So, you know, follow all of my tips that I've provided and you'll be just fine. So if you have any more comments on, you know, maybe being in Colombia or solo traveling in general, like, just drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer. Oh, and something else too, like, you know, maybe scary to solo travel because you're like, what if I can't meet anybody? Like, I've never had an issue meeting anybody in any solo travel situation, whether I'm in a different country or at a festival or out of state, whatever. I've made friends every single time that I've gone somewhere. So I can't really speak on what it's like if you just don't meet anybody at all, but I've never had that issue. So normally, like, if you are cool going out into the nightlife, like at a club or a bar, like, be responsible, you know, if you're going to be drinking. But I've made friends that way. Or maybe book like a tour. Like, I've never done that. Like, I looked into it, but like, if I didn't make friends like in Colombia, like through the festival, like I would have probably booked like a walking tour. So like, do those things. Like, I did that in Australia, that I wanted to spend the day out, so I booked a group tour and met people that way. So yeah, just don't be afraid to, you know, talk to people or go out by yourself. You know, I know it can be kind of scary going out alone at night, but like, I find it just much easier to meet people at night than it is during the day, especially like at a club setting or something like that. You know, out to dinner, like, go sit at a restaurant at the bar. That's where other, like, you know, people probably by themselves are. But yeah, like, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna meet people and you're gonna have fun. Okay, I thought of this while I was editing. I completely forgot to mention it earlier, but another tip that I always follow is, so tip number 12 is that I never book with Airbnbs. I just don't feel comfortable with Airbnb anymore for a lot of reasons. For one, like, it's just way too expensive. So it's just much easier to get hotels these days for a much affordable price. But I've just seen way too many horror stories of people having these awful experiences at Airbnbs inside the country and outside of the United States. So I would just prefer to avoid that altogether. I don't want to be robbed. I don't want to be sex trafficked. I don't want to be watched. I don't want to be filmed in the shower. And I know all Airbnbs aren't bad, but I'm just not going to take that risk. Out of all the times I've solo traveled, I've only stayed in an Airbnb one time, and I made sure to that the host was a female and that she had good reviews. But other than that, I just try to steer clear from Airbnb in general. I used to book with them a lot, but not anymore. So I just prefer the safety of a hotel, and a well-known hotel at that. So going cheap is not the way to go. Like, your safety is just so much more important. So don't go find the cheapest hotel in the city. So like in this case, I made sure to find like a name brand hotel. It was the La Quinta, and this isn't always the case, but just find a very like highly rated hotel. Check the reviews and check the area. So that's what I did too. So I read the reviews, I checked the area that I was going to stay in to make sure that I was going to be okay. And yeah, like, those are just the precautions that I take when booking a hotel. I just feel much safer in that route than staying in an Airbnb. So thank you so much for watching. If you have solo traveled, like, let me know down in the comments. I want to know where you've gone or where you want to go. And if you would like more tips specifically for like music festival travel, like going to those solo, like, I would be happy to do a video on that, because it can For the most part, same kind of tips, but it's a music festival setting, so there are just certain things that I do a little bit differently. So again, thank you so much for watching. Like this video, subscribe to my channel for more festivals, food, and flying. And please don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at electric_Ollie. Bye.